3, writing equations in point-slope form. So before we get too far, let's take a look and see what point-slope form actually is. So here we have it, y minus y1 equals the slope times the difference of x and x1. Now, the easiest way to show you what we're going to do here is just to show you with example questions. So let's take a look at a problem. Okay, suppose we wanted to have the equation in point-slope form for the line that passes through 3, -2 with a slope of 1/4. In order to do this, what I recommend you do is just label each of these parts of the point x1, y1. The reason why I put a 1 there is because it's the first point you're given. Then write down the formula for point-slope form. This equation, pardon me. Writing this will help you memorize it. Also, it helps you to know what you're plugging in where to make it nice and easy so you don't mix anything up. So we have y minus, our y1 is -2. Do not forget to put that negative sign right there. It's y minus -2, not y minus 2. Big difference. Our slope, they said, is 1/4. And we have x minus, our x1 is 3. And at this point, we're basically done. The only thing you could do here, really, to simplify this is, see how we have minus a negative? You don't want to have two operations next to each other. So remember, subtracting a negative is the same thing as adding, so we can rewrite this as y plus 2 equals 1/4 difference of x and 3. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to look at, which is included in this section, is standard form. Standard form is basically where you have your x's and y's on one side of the equation, and on the other side you have your c. So ax plus by equals c. This coefficient, or these coefficients, a and b, they can be either 1 or 0. So if we had 1x, you would just see x there, or let's say we had 0y, then you actually wouldn't see anything with y at all. So just keep that in mind when we're doing this. Let's take a look at an example problem. Okay, so in this problem, we're actually given the equation of a line. This is in point-slope form, what we just discussed, and we want to go from this to standard form. So what we're going to do is, when we look at this, the slope right here, since this slope is a fraction, we're going to go ahead and take apart that fraction. We have a denominator of 3. So this means divided by 3. The opposite of division is multiplication. So we're going to get rid of this 3 by multiplying by 3 on both sides. Let's take a look. First, I'm going to put this in parentheses, separate that term, and I'm going to write times 3. And if I do that on one side of the equation, so I have to actually do that on this side too, because what you do to one side of the equation, you have to do to the other. So on this side right here, I'm just going to write it to make it nice and neat. 3 times the difference of y and 1 equals, now here we have times 3 divided by 3, that cancels. So we still have this minus 2, the -2 there, and difference of x and 5. Now we just use distributive property. 3 times y is 3y. Right here, signs are different, so we have minus. 3 times 1 is 3. Right here, signs are different, so we have minus. 2 times x is 2x. Right here, signs are the same, so we have plus. 2 times 5 is 10. Now, we go ahead and put this all the way in standard form, meaning we have our x's and y's on the left, and we have our numbers on the right. One thing to keep in mind, though, with standard form is, remember, x, then y, just like the alphabet. So be cognizant of that. Now, to get rid of this minus 2x on the right-hand side of the equation, I'm going to do the opposite, adding 2x. I'm going to do that on both sides. So when I do that, remember, we want to lead with the x term. So I'm going to start out with my 2x. Now, I have 3y here. Since there's no sign or symbol that precedes it, I'm going to put a plus because that means this is positive. So it's going to be plus 3y minus 3. Pause the video if you need to look at that to analyze that more. On this side, these cancel, and we're left with 10. Almost done. I got to move this number over here. To get rid of a minus 3, I add 3, do that on both sides, this cancels, and I end up with 2x plus 3y equals 13. Okay, the next one we need to take a look at is slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form, remember, is y equals mx plus b format. So, right here, we have an equation in point-slope form. We want to write this in slope-intercept form. So, what we're going to do is as follows. We look at this, we want it in y equals mx plus b format. First, I'm going to go ahead and distribute this 3 halves. Y plus 3 equals 3 halves times x, and I have 3 halves times 1. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to eliminate this plus 3. So, I'm going to subtract 3 on both sides. This cancels, leaving y. On this side, I have 3 halves x, and now I have plus 3 halves minus 3. So, remember, adding, subtracting fractions, we have to have common denominators. We're going to do this part over here. There's a little bit of review for you. We have this minus 3. Now to make this 3 into a fraction, I give it a denominator of 1. Now, we can see here, common denominator we need is going to be 2. Since I'm not changing the denominator here, I leave this as 3 halves. Here, to go from 1 to 2, I had to multiply by 2. If I multiply by 2 in the denominator, I have to do it in the numerator as well. 3 times 2 is 6. So now I have 3 halves minus 6 halves. Well, 3 minus 6 is going to be negative 3. Denominator stays the same. So this right here equals negative 3 halves. So I'm going to write minus 3 halves, and there is our answer. If this part confused you, definitely take a look at this. Make sure you can add and subtract fractions. You remember common denominators. And that's it for 4.3, writing equations in point-slope form. See you in class.